An alcoholic's day. Drinking alcohol used to be fun for me when I was younger. And then I became hooked on it. It became a problem. But I'm going to go back to 2019 and tell you what my typical day was like when I was really struggling at the bottom of the bottle, as it were. And I'm just going to take you through one typical day. I'll go from the night before. Probably the best way to do 24 hours. So I'd go to the pub, get back about 11:30 at night. I would just sit up as long as I could, and I would drink strong lager, normally Stella or something. Now, I used to use a company called, you could dial up and get them to deliver a drink between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. So I used to have this cupboard which I kept my stock in, and you wouldn't believe how much beer I had in there. I used to get these slabs of Stella. It was 24 cans in a slab, and I had 40 in there. 40 slabs. I was so frightened to run now. I was in such anxiety. Now, this is going back a few years. Prior to that one, there was still a lot of checks being used, and I used to write a check for these things. Now, as time went on, I couldn't write the check out, or I couldn't even hold the card steady enough to put in the machine. And the system this company used was the buyer, me, would have to go outside and visit them in the van, and they would bring this beer to you. Because for security reasons, didn't want to enter premises. We couldn't do that in the end. We used to have to get them to bring it in. So when I couldn't write the check out, I used to get them to write the check. They would just hand on my debit card and they would take the number down. People don't use checks as much now. I was in such a state, so I'd get my supplies, and I'd probably sit up most of the night, just sipping away at this Stella. And then I'd try and get some sleep, or I'd just fall asleep, maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. And I always put a can of beer next to my bed in case I woke up and I couldn't get the loo or whatever, because I used to think, well, I need a drink just to even walk. That's how bad it was 5 years ago. Now, eventually I'd get up at some point, maybe midday, and I used to feel terrible. Generally be sick, just be sick in a bile, all yellow gunge and whatnot, couldn't eat anything. And I used to mix the Stella with a lager with a little bit of lemonade, just so I get the first sips down. I'd be shaking so badly. Not my whole body, but my arms, and I couldn't hold anything with my right hand. I used to use my left hand, or even just dip my head into the glass a little bit, just to get a little bit down, or the can, try and hold it up, or even lie down and just pour a bit in. That's how bad it was. At this stage, I was having this ascites fluid. I didn't know what it was. Huge, inflated, distended stomach. I'd lost a lot of muscle mass, and I wasn't really eating very well. But I used to force myself every day to get out of bed. I didn't shower very much, just had a bit of a wash on my face, put some water in my hair, ruffled up a bit, didn't get a shave, rarely tidied the flat up, unless my daughter was coming up for the odd visit, which is very rare, because I think even my relationship with her was suffering. Because of the drinking, I was in this huge rut right at the bottom of it. So I'd sit just at the window of this flat and just look outside. Where I was, there's a main road, a semi-main or cut-through road, just to watch the world go by. And someone think, God, I wish I was out there. I can't get out there. That's how trapped I was. And then I used to have a few drinks. I used to listen to U2, they're my favourite band. And at the time, my iPad wasn't working very well. So I had about 3 songs on. I used to play them over and over and over again. You know, I thought I was going mad. about 4 o'clock, I thought, well, I've got to try and do something. I was still a little bit unsteady, but once I had a few drinks, any alcoholic will tell you this. If you've had a few drinks, your system will settle down, because your body's getting what it needs, or your brain is anyway. So I think, well, the guys I used to drink with would go to the local pub out between 4 and 5. I must go and get out of this flat. So I used to ring up the taxi firm. They knew exactly who I was. In fact, I went on an automatic system. I used to press 1, 2, 3, and it would just turn up, because it was recorded where I was going to, the local pub, Wetherspoon's pub. So I used to walk slowly to the car, get in the car as best I could, and go down to this pub, maybe for 5 o'clock, half 5. Have a couple of drinks. I started to drink Guinness then. I mainly just drank lager. Maybe felt a bit better, but maybe not better. It didn't. And at that time, I didn't like crowds. I didn't want to go weekends very much. I used to force myself. And every time I had a drink, I was just thinking, please make me feel better, But it all got worse. So I hadn't eaten anything for the whole day. So by about 7 o'clock, I used to order some sort of snack, but I used to try and get a pizza down me. And they were the only thing I could eat, really, because very salty, very cheesy, and quite Moorish, aren't they? In the end, I couldn't even eat a pizza. I was just eating, just picking bits off it, And then I would order a taxi, and I'd be panicking in case it was a busy night and I couldn't get a taxi to me. I used to stand outside the pub and it was closed, and I'm thinking, God, I hope we're going to be all right. Freezing cold or something's at night, and oh, where's the taxi? I used to panic. The anxiety was incredibly bad. Eventually somebody would turn up a taxi. Managed to get in there, and I said, well, please go to the middle door. There's 3 entrances to the flats. The middle door is the only one that is near my flat. So I thought, if I get in the middle door, I won't have too far to walk to the door. I was so relieved just to get to the door. And I would stand outside the flat and get my key out, and oh God, I'm in, I didn't have agoraphobia or anything. I just wanted to be in the flat and feel safe again. I put the lights on. I would never put candles on like I've got here. I would set the place on fire, put the TV on, or the radio. I used to listen to a lot of radio, and I'd start drinking again. And if something was at 2, 3 in the morning, I used to try and eat a little bit. So the whole day was just trying to get through the day, if that makes sense. I didn't open any post, rarely took any phone calls. My parents at the time were, and my mother's still alive, they would ring in every day and make sure I was all right, or still alive. That's what they used to ring, to make sure you're alive. I didn't want to be bothered by anybody. I didn't want to I didn't want people to see me in that state. And the bed that I had, the slats had more or less collapsed, so I wasn't sleeping properly. The bathroom was a mess. There'd been a leak in the bathroom, and the floor and it all crumbled away. I couldn't deal with any of that. At one point, there was rats in the flat. Seriously, rats. Managed to get the pest control out, but they always wanted to come early in the morning. I think, God, I can't have them early in the morning. I can't get out of bed, So sometimes they would come midday. That eventually got sorted out, but there was still this problem in the bathroom. Couldn't have a shower. Cooker was US, had a microwave. So sometimes when I got back at night, I used to try and microwave some soup. And one day I went as far as making some pasta, putting this pasta sauce in the microwave, and I spilled it on my foot, and the blisters were incredibly painful. I didn't go to hospital. Eventually they healed. I got somebody to get me some proper bandages. So when you're drinking that much and you get into the bottom, you don't even go to the doctors. Unless you're taken to the doctors. Somebody force you to go. And you just neglect your health. I was so close to dying. I've just seen today a guy who's a bit younger than me, I'll not name him obviously, who had the same consultant as me, and he didn't stop drinking. And he's so jaundiced. I haven't seen him for about 6 months. He's so jaundiced. He's virtually yellow. He won't have long to live. He's 53. He had the same issues as me, and I know that he won't last till Christmas. start warning this, you know, it'll kill you. This, a day in the life of an alcoholic is pure torture. That's all it is, pure torture. I don't mean to be the bringer of bad news, I'm just telling you my experiences, because I wish somebody had told me the real medical issues, the real problems you're going to have, not just medically, emotionally, physical. There's also financial problems. Your world will fall apart if you continue to drink. It will fall apart. So you've got to get a grip with this thing. Nobody tells anybody, until recently maybe, the real dangers. You know, we're all told about drugs, and this alcohol is the worst drug because it's so available, isn't it? I'll do another one if anybody wants any more information about a typical day. But the typical day is just survival. Surviving each hour, each minute. And when you're at that level of alcohol consumption, you can't stop. Because I did try and stop and I had seizures. So you're so frightened, you're going to have a seizure, you just won't stop. You can't stop. You've got to have medical intervention, really. All these things that I've seen on the internet about, you know, join this and we'll get you sober in 48 hours and all that, I don't believe it. That's my view. If it was that easy, everyone would do it, wouldn't it? And the hospitals wouldn't be full to bursting with people with alcohol-related liver disease, kidney problems, pancreatitis, strokes, heart attacks, accidents, blood disorders, all caused by alcohol. If you have any comments, please drop me a line. Please subscribe if you enjoy the channel. Keep watching the other videos as well. I try and post every day something a bit more cheery than this, because my life now is great. You know, I can look back with, well, reflective mode and think, well, you know, I cracked it. I survived. But I know the guy today won't, because these consultants know what they're talking about. I'm not a medic, I've just got practical advice for people. He was told to stop drinking 3 or 4 years ago. He tried to cut down. That's impossible for alcoholics. You cannot cut down. You've got to stop. And this guy I know will not survive more than another few months. God bless. But there you go. I'll speak to you soon.